Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning, good morning, good morning. I know you were expecting to see Donnie Glover. Yes, you were expecting to see the man about town. You were expecting to see the legend. Well, the legend is doing legendary things this morning as he continues to do great things. Be More News. Yes, the legendary show. I'm so happy to be here. I'm the guest host this morning. Dr. Eric Kelly III of the Black Business Olympics. And when you begin to talk about Olympics, you got to talk about Black business. As we sit here at Black USA News, I want to first of all thank Donnie for giving me a call this morning and entrusting me to his audience to say, good morning, world. Good morning, world. As we begin to look at our lives this morning, I want to first of all say to you all that I truly am honored to get the opportunity to come to you today. Now, we will have an opportunity. If you have questions to put in the chat box, you can put them in the chat box. I will answer questions. And of course, as we get ready for the Donnie Glover show, you have the Eric Kelly III remix. And when we remix it, you know what we do. And I'm going to take a few minutes to come off camera. And when I come back, it's going to be the Black Business Network Live. Special guest of the Donnie Glover Show. All right, let's make it, make it, make it let's make it happen. And of course, the Black Business Expo is also looking for speakers. So, with that being said, let's make it happen. And as I come back, I just want you to know we're definitely looking for speakers. The Black Business Expo is one of the largest business showcases in the history of Black America in North Carolina. And as you know, as you think about North Carolina, you got to think about the world. North Carolina is the home base for the Black Business Expo, but the Black Business Olympics is a worldwide event. And we have speakers from all over the world, from Singapore, from Australia, from Burundi, Africa, from the UK, and all parts of North America, Las Vegas, Chicago, New York City, Durham, North Carolina, and then, of course, Washington, D.C., Virginia. And, let's talk about a little the context of what and why the Black Business Olympics exist. It exists to raise scholarships for kids. It exists to change the narrative, to get our kids out of the entertainment culture and get them into the entrepreneurship culture. What does that mean? Most of our kids, when they read newspapers, see TV, and watch what's going on their telephones, they are pushed and pushed and pushed into being entertainers, to being athletes, to being actors, to be dancers, to be rumshakers, to be strippers, to be criminals. They're not pushed to be scientists, lawyers, and doctors. The Black Business Expo, the Black Business Olympics wants to change that narrative. Not only do they want to change this narrative, they want to change this narrative in a way where our students can get scholarships so they can compete with students all over the nation. Some people say, why do we do it? We do it for business owners so that they can build capacity around the world. Imagine a world where you're looking at live TV all over the world, 365 days of the year, 24 hours a day, which means that you're able to speak to people all day, every day. And when I say all day, every day, it makes me think about two special young ladies who work with the Black Business Olympics. All day, Latoya Henson, who is the executive, who is the production assistant to the Black Business Olympics. She is the one that reaches out to all of the speakers, talk to the speakers, and bring the speakers in. And then, of course, the metaverse goddess, Nicole Maxwell, on the board of directors. And what she does is she directs what's going on with the Olympics. She makes sure that integrity is not lost. She makes sure that honesty is not lost. She makes sure that the way that the show runs, it runs in excellence. I want to thank both of these ladies as they're doing an outstanding job with the Black Business Olympics. Now, news. What is the news of the day? The news of the day is, where do you put your money? With $1.6 trillion in the Black community, where do you put your money? We just came off of Black Business Month. And I'm always wondering, we have to say Black Business Month. We have to say Black History Month. But, you never hear anybody say, let's come off Black Business Year. And so today, I am announcing today that in January 2023, we're going to be announcing Black Business Year. And we're going to do something every day in Black Business Year to support Black businesses all over the world. When you look at the numbers, Black businesses amount to $200 billion. Okay? I want you to let that sink in for a minute. Black businesses represent $200 billion. There's one man on the planet, Jeff Bezos, who runs Amazon, and he represents 300 million. Excuse me for the numbers. I want to make sure I get the numbers right. That's 200 million, 300 million. Why is it one person owns more money in his house than we own as an entire community? Let me tell you why. The reason why is because everybody, every nation attacks us and makes us consumers. To think about that for a moment, $1.6 trillion, and we don't own it. We don't run it. We don't make it happen. And when we say that number, it's hard for us to even fathom, because getting $100 for some of us is a challenge each and every day. And then you go to talk about $1.7 trillion. How do I feel that? Well, all of the other countries and all the other nations and all of the other groups, they understand it. That's why your culture is put everywhere, all over the world. Think about it for a moment. Where is your culture today? Black Wall Street. Donnie Glover does a book called Black Wall Street. And in his book, he talks about the different Black Wall Streets all over the world. And when you think about that for a moment, you have to understand really what Black Wall Street was for Black people. Black Wall Street was a segregated situation where Black people who were not infused or integrated into society, where Black people had to do business for and with themselves. Okay, so we had Black Wall Streets in Oakland. We had Black Wall Streets in California. We had Black Wall Streets in North Carolina, South Carolina, New York City, all over North America. Now, we had Black Wall Street in Oklahoma. So now think about it for a moment. We had Black businesses in all of these states all over the country. And these Black businesses were going up the ladder of progress. And as they was going up the ladder of progress, they were surpassing other races when it came to earning money. Now, you can sit there and say, well, yeah, but what happened? Okay, now let's talk about what happened. So all of a sudden, all over the world, systematically, Black businesses were destroyed. In some cities, they were burned out. In some cities, they was bombed out. And in some cities, there was a little trick called urban renewal, or as we say, urban removal, where highways went through their cities and displaced Black people. Now, if you're burned out of your business that you've had for over 20 or 30 years, and now you got to start all the way back over, that's going to be a challenging situation. So what did black people do? Black people started supporting other businesses. And that's what burning and bombing and destroying black businesses and taking black businesses' land was all about. For that $1.6 trillion to be redirected from the black community into other people's communities. It is said that in Hispanic community, it's months at a time. In the Jewish community, it's years at a time. Hey, in the black community, it's only 8 hours. And I submit that if it's only 8 hours, our money only sleeps in our community. So we have to change that. So how do we change that? The only way that we can change that is to go backwards and do what we did in the 40s, the 30s, the 40s, and 50s. And that is to open up black businesses. And people would say, well, you don't deserve a black business. You can't run a black business. No, we can't do that. Why can't we open black businesses? The reason that our money doesn't revolve around in our neighborhoods is because in our neighborhoods, everybody is not in business. In other neighborhoods, everybody got a business. If black people would open up businesses, it would change the wealth gap overnight, because the wealth gap is $14,000 to $171,000. Think about that for a moment. Think about it for a moment. If the wealth gap is 171,000 compared to 14,000 in the black community, how can you survive? How can you build businesses? Now, everybody open up a business in the black community and we all could find them and support them, then it changes everybody's family, because business is about family. And with that being said, it's always great when I'm asked to come on the network and talk about business. And the business I want to talk about today is the Black Business Olympics. The Black Business Olympics is one of the largest business showcases in the history of Black America in the world. Yes, the world. For those of you who do not know, and this is the first time that you've heard it, I want you to take a journey and go to YouTube right now. Go to YouTube, go to YouTube, go to YouTube. And when you get to YouTube, I want you to type in Black Business Olympics. And what you're going to embark on is an Olympics that's been happening without you. Yes, without you. Now, if I say it's been happening without you, ask yourself the question, why? Because our why is to raise scholarships. But for business owners who participate and who speak and do presentation, their why is to build capacity to do business globally all over the world. And once you key that in, you will notice that we are serious about Black excellence. And for people who just tuned in, I'm Dr. Eric Kelly III from the South Side of Durham, North Carolina, broadcasting live on Black USA News. Yes, it's Be More News. And if you were looking for Donnie Glover, the legend, Donnie is doing legendary things today as he's meeting with presidents and CEOs and business owners. And he just thought he'd call me in so that I could talk with you this morning. And now that's my 15-minute monologue. I hope you're ready to go on this journey as we get ready to go to my first guest. But before I go to my first guest, I would like to take you to think about another conference that's coming up. Conference is being run by the Metaverse Goddess, Nicole Maxwell. We're going to go to a break, and we're going to look at the magazine covers of the Black Business Olympics, and then we're going to go to a commercial. And when we come back from that commercial, we're going to bring up our guest, Tamisha Thomas of Too Much TV. Yes, indeed. Make sure you make that summit is coming up very rapidly. And of course, the Black Business Olympics. The summit is coming up the 14th and the 15th. Then following that summit, the Black Business Olympics, September 19th through the 25th. Oh boy, it's going to be awesome. As each day for 7 days, it's going to be a business show that deals with on Monday, for 12 hours, business owners are going to come on and talk about inspiration, empowerment, and education. What does that mean when you're creating a business? Education, empowerment, and inspiration. It is the core before you get to the why of what business is all about. Then on Tuesday, 12 hours, starting out with the state of Black business. And then that day is going to be dedicated to advertising, marketing, public relations, merchandising, and sales. And every company needs those terms in their business and to understand them. And so we're going to have 12 speakers from across the globe to talk about all 12 of those. And then on Wednesday will be 64 ways how to do my business in social media. Think about it for a moment. The universe and the metaverse. Which one are you going to be ready for? Decentralization. What is that? What is Web3? What is metaverse? What is blockchains? How many blockchains are there? What is cryptocurrency? These questions and more will be answered on that Wednesday. And then Thursday, diversity, equity, and inclusion. Many people talk about that's the Woman's Day of our event. And I keep saying, no, it's the money day of our event. Because if you don't diversify and if you don't include, how are you going to get to equity? Then on Friday is a powerful day because if you understand that in this country right now, in this world right now, the average age is 29 years old. I want that to sink in for a moment because if the average age is 29 years old, then that only means what? That means that if you have a business and you are pushing your business to 30 and 40 years old, 10 years from now, you will be out of business because your audience will not exist. So today, think about that as we move on into this interview. Now, Friday is Generation X versus Generation Z. How we bridge the digital divide. And we'll have young people from all over the world talking on that day, talking about business. If you just understood that we got millionaires who are 14 and 15 years old, 12 and 13 years old, we as a Black community have to cultivate that. We can't sit on the sideline and say, you're a millionaire and you know what to do. We want to say, how can you ensure that we have many, many more millionaires of your age group? Then on Saturday is Black business and the culture. When I talked earlier about sports, basketball, football, being in the movies and all of these things, Saturday is about the culture. Okay, if you're an athlete, I'm not saying anything wrong with being an athlete, but let's talk about the agent the agent business. If you're an actor, let's talk about the business of show business. Let's talk about where the money is being made in the back, not the money in the front, because many people can be in the front not making any money, and the folk in the back are making all the money. Now, on Sunday, it's Black Business in the Church, and people and bishops and ministers come in and they talk about it. Now, for those of you who would like to get information on it, you can go to the email and email Eric Kelly45 at Gmail if you want to be a speaker, if you want to be a business and you want to be on the show, or you can go to Black Business USA website and sign up. And then, of course, you can call 919-308-9090. We have 10 slots left. And if you call that number right now, we'll make sure you get a slot today. And with that being said, I'd like to bring on my first guest, Too Much TV, a young lady, a brilliant young lady by the name of Tamisha Thomas. Tamisha Thomas is a genius in her own right. She's a trailblazer. She's a lady who's doing things all over the country. As a matter of fact, she is creating not only documentaries, she's creating movies. She's creating experiences and memories. She is, as many would say, behind the scenes, creating kings and queens all over the world. With no further ado, I'd like to announce to all of you, here she is, my guest, the beautiful, the lovely Tamisha Thomas.
Good morning. Good morning, Dr. Kelly. How are you?
Good morning. Good morning. As you see, we put the Black Business Network banner up here. You know, Black Business News, Black Business Expo presents the Black Business Olympics. We dropped the logo on there because we're a guest host today. And while we guest hosting, we want the world, and as I say, to get the full benefit of what we look like. And this is what we look like for those 7 days. And Tamisha, you've been one of our speakers. That's before we get into talking about what you do. Let's talk a little bit about the experience of being on the Black Business Network. It's a 24-hour network that's created for the world to speak live and for business owners to build capacity to do business globally. Talk a little bit about your experience.
Well, Dr. Kelly, first I want to thank you for having this as a great vision and for basically putting together an experience that actually supports our youth. This is amazing. Like you hit on earlier, several things destroy our business communities, urban renewal being one of them. We are concentrating in the Raleigh-Durham, Chapel Hill area. That's where we're operating from. And it's pretty hard to see. One of my clients right now, Durham Community Land Trustees, one of the oldest affordable housing complexes, affordable housing developers here, they're currently working on a project and we're creating a video project where the residents are talking about urban renewal. And you know how 147 came through. There was a huge business district. I actually had to get more footage on the documentary and went over to the Mutual building and had to take pictures of North Carolina Mutual, Mechanics and Farmers Bank, those institutions that actually went into the Black community, got those monies as securities for insurance policies. Then we were able to turn around and bank with that, and then able to recirculate that money in our communities for barber shops, for hospitals, for movie theaters. And so I was not of that generation. You know, I was placed.
But you know what's amazing about what you're saying? Many times people don't understand when you're talking to that generation. I was a part of that generation. I was a kid. Now, the place that you're talking about in Durham was called Haytown. And Haytown was full of business owners. Now, I know you're doing a documentary. There is a video. There's a video called Bull Durham Rising that you can get. I know. Don't worry. I got you. that you can add to that documentary that actually shows the Regal Theater, the barbershops, the taxi cab places, and what many people talk about Black Wall Street, which is on Paris Street, really nobody really talks about Pettigrew Street, where the black businesses really were. You know, WAFR, I'm not dating myself. I was a kid during those times, but the thing that I remember more than anything is that I could walk from Federal Street Projects, which more than about 3-4 blocks from Pettigrew Street, and walk down in a district where I could go to the movies and watch the movies. That's what we did as kids. There was a black hotel there called the Biltmore Hotel. We could go in there and run around. There was the taxi cab. And then one of the stalwarts of the community was the print shop. You know, Service Printing. I think it was called Service Printing. And as a matter of fact, I knew the owner as I grew up before he passed. And I'm telling you, when you come from that cloth and you come from that era, you are a different kind of thinking thought person. And for those of you who are here for the first time and we're talking about North Carolina, we want you to know that in Baltimore, just like in North Carolina, it was the same. We were segregated into a situation where we had to do business together. And when you talk about urban renewal, I termed this a long time ago, not urban renewal, urban removal.
And I've heard some people refer to it as urban manure. So when you said removal, I thought you were going to say manure, but removal.
I'm not gonna go down there. I'm not gonna go down there.
But I'm just saying, I've heard some, and so I'm from Alabama, and so our black city, Pritchard, my mother would point to me, well, that's where we used to have this, and that's where we used to have that. And as my mind, as a child that was born in the 70s, I was born after the turmoil. I was born after the death of Martin Luther King, the death of Medgar Evers, the death. And
yeah, you missed it. Hey, look, I hate to tell you, you missed it.
I did, and was born inside of an era where you were already segregated into the schools. And so 2468, they didn't want to integrate, had already been in the streets of America. You know, you already had the Arkansas Little Rock 9. And so I was actually kind of raised in a school system that I was, you know, my classmates were white kids, you know, and so but I had this sense. My father took me to a museum one time, and he took me to one of the higher institutions in Alabama and said, what do you notice here? But there's only white people on the wall, Dad. You know, what's going on here? And so my mind began to understand, well, what happened here? Because when I'm looking at my black community, I'm looking at my mother telling me what once was. And then when I'm seeing my white counterparts and seeing the fact that you can shop wherever you want to shop now. You can go to school wherever you want to go. But there's still this great disparity between these two communities. And it didn't seem to me like any other community had more intellect than we did, you know. And so I thank you for having the vision to be able to highlight black businesses and to be able to have them operate on a global scale, because it's been a great experience to be a part of the Olympics, to be able to educate people about marketing. So my background is that I actually work for a black-owned radio station.
And before we go there, I know people are like, y'all just sitting up there, just having conversation like y'all brothers and sisters. That's what the Black Business Network is all about. And you know, we definitely want to thank Donnie Glover for allowing us to do what we call the takeover this morning.
Thank you, Donnie Glover.
Donnie Glover, you the man. Thank you so very much.
You are. We're glad to be here.
When you see this, Donnie, forgive me for I know not what I do. I just do what I do. The reason I wanted to stop you is because the audience is probably sitting there saying, I'm enjoying the conversation. You have two black folk who are talking about from two different areas. Donnie Glover's book on Black Wall Street talks about Black Wall Street. And that is really what we're talking about this morning, not only Black Wall Street. We're talking about some of the other things that are happening all around the world. And the thing that I want to start out with, and I want to slow down so that I can get the audience up to speed. And Who is Tamisha Thomas, and what is Too Much TV? As you know, I can interview, and so I'm gonna do a little interview right about now, so people can know who you are, get a feel and some little flavor. So if they like to ask some questions about what you're doing, if they want to make some comments, and I do understand that you actually are going to be doing some documentary on the Juneteenth Hall of Fame. It's been confirmed. I just want to make you smile this morning. But who is Tamisha Thomas, and what is Too Much TV?
Well, Tamisha Thomas is me. I'm from Alabama, cradle of Confederacy. Was born understanding that hey, you got to make Martin Luther King's birthday a holiday by not going to school. Understanding about the Pettus Bridge, understanding about the bombing him, the little four girls being bombed in Alabama. I'm from a place where and Mississippi was right behind us with Fannie Lou Hamer, sick and tired of being sick and tired. I'm from a place that is the cradle of Confederacy. It holds a lot of the American values. It was the middle of the showdown for whether or not states could have rights to have slaves. And it was also the showdown where African Americans fought back, and they fought back through organized religion, church, Southern Christian Leadership Conference, Martin Luther King. And so understanding that media is a very, very strong voice, and our voice in community is one of the guards of the community. You have the church, you've got the education centers, and you have radio. And so I was fortunate enough to start my career at V103, which is a #1 station in a 13 market. Saw that corporate radio wasn't for me, ended up in the care of Mr. Huntley Batts, who should go down in history as will go down in history as one of the power brokers of Huntsville, Alabama. He owned an insurance agency, and he owned a radio station, and the radio station was his fund money because he insured a lot of things. And Huntsville is the purse of Alabama. It is also the weaponry of Alabama. It is where the arsenal sits. It's where a lot of missiles are made. And so it was there that I learned radio, the power of radio, learned about the Chitlin radio market, because that's what we were. It's amazing to hear that such a powerful station would be referred to in terms of Chitlin. So that's that whole psychological warfare on our minds as far as not understanding our history. And so I carry those things with me. And I'm now in Raleigh, North Carolina, and we are working on documentaries now. And the documentary that we are working on is basically Top of the World. It is a look at gentrification through the eyes of an HBCU student.
Before you go there, tell us a little bit about Tamisha Thomas's background, about where you went to school. How did you move through this process of getting to this point in history? Because I think many times people refer to their life as life and not history.
So I am a product of I was born in 75. And so I'm a product of two people, my mother and father, and their dreams were they both, I think, had a dream of television. But Papa was a Rolling Stone. Wherever my daddy laid his hat was his home. I've got like 7 brothers and sisters. The last stepmom is from the Philippines, and so my father just he did what he did, and he had children, and he said that in his youth that God came to him. I think when he wrecked a Camaro, maybe when he had on one of his silk shirts and medallions down to here. He was really a product of blaxploitation. My father believed that he was Superfly, and in that period of America having this generation that was what he says, he was free. And so he said that one night he wrecked his car, and he said that God came to him in a dream while he was unresponsive and said, I created you to deliver a message. And he says, my father says, well, I don't know why you chose me, but you need to choose somebody else. And I believe that person was me. And so it kind of fell into my lap. And so I'm guided by ancestral voices. I'm guided by this great gift that I have to be able to stand in an ancestral place, I call it, knowing my ancestral self. My mother, she was working at the news station when I was younger. So she has this amazing, magnificent radio voice. My mother is everything that I am not.
And you've done a documentary on your mama, right?
I have not done that. No, I have not done that.
We got to slow you down now. We got to slow you down. We got to slow
Okay.
you down.
Okay.
You're doing all these documentaries on all these people and all this stuff. Take care of mama.
Okay.
Take like my when you start talking about the news and all that kind of stuff, I'm not gonna say I was dropped into that whole scene. I'm gonna say my great grandfather used to say he wanted me to be a lawyer. And he said, "You're a good talker, little boy. You need to be a lawyer because all our families need a lawyer." And I said, "Papa," that's what his name, "Papa, I don't want to be no lawyer. I want to be an artist." And he said, "Well, if you want to be an artist, do you have any work to show? If not, I got these books right here, and you gonna start studying these books." And I went over to my bed because I was living in his 2-story house. He was wealthy. I was living in his house, and when he got my pad out and started showing him artwork, and he was like, "Oh, you do want to be an artist, don't you?" I said, "Yes, that's what I want to be. I don't want to be a lawyer."
Wow.
And the funny thing is, right after that, he walks into my room when I was about 7 and says, "Well, since you want to be an artist, I'm going to start a museum right in this house for you, and you can only sell to collectors." But after I began my journey of my life, I kept running into people who wanted me to be on TV, who wanted me to talk on radio. And I ended up being a anchor and doing TV for over 30 years and doing radio for over 30 years. And I never once wanted to do it, but I was in Birmingham, Alabama, and the Ku Klux Klans was marching in Birmingham, Alabama.
They love Alabama.
I survived, and they were on the steps of City Hall in Birmingham. I had went to Birmingham to sing and dance and all the other stuff we do when we're young, and the news agencies had the cameras pointed on the steps of City Hall. But across the street in the park was over 2,000 Black people ready to just riot. And my grandmother called me on my phone and she said, "You need to get out of Birmingham. They're going to lynch you." And I said to my grandma, I said, you don't even see what's going on." She said, "What do you mean?" I said, "It's over 2,000 Black people out here ready to do something to these white people right now. And there's police standing right in front of them." And that was the moment that I realized that media controlled what you see.
The narrative.
And we don't control the narrative. And I always fight people about it because I say, look, what is your narrative? What is your why? What is your what? What is your how? What is your when? And what you're doing right now is you're working on defining the narrative.
And it's so important because people, it goes back to when my father took me to this institution and he's like, "I want you to tell me, what do you see when we leave here?" And I'm like, "A bunch of white people. I don't see anybody Black." So at that young age, when I used to open up a history book and I would thumb through it, and the only time you would see yourself is when you have the harness on your neck. And as a child, I'm like, this is not our history. This is not. I don't know who wrote this book. And I was able to decipher then who wrote this book and what's the final outcome of this book. And I'm rejecting, because when you, as an artist, when you create something, you're creating with an intention for someone to walk away with X message. And so it's amazing that and working with telling untold stories, how
Mm-hmm.
many people have not thought that their story is worth telling, and what that does to the psyche of these young kids who walk into an education system? They're there for 18 years of their lives, and then if you make it through that system, because now they've connected up to the school to prison pipeline,
Mm-hmm.
and it first starts with the story of Christopher Columbus, which is not true.
And let's stop right there. See, I told you missed it. Now I'm not trying to say I got the best part of what went on, but when I went to school, there was something called Black history. And that Black history now really is critical theory. People won't say that Black history is critical theory, which really what it is. But the problem with Black history that nobody won't talk about, it's not about the historical what happened. It is about what white people did when you pull that rug up and look at history and see really what happened. Because when you realize that it was 7,000 years before the Greeks got their first alphabet, you have to ask your one relative question.
Who gave it to them?
Those 7,000 years, what were they doing those 7,000 years? What was the Black? Okay, they built pyramids. They had their own system of, and it wasn't even called religion. Religion was created, the Greeks and the Romans. So they had their own systems. They had all of this stuff going on. And what really was going on is something nobody ever knows. They say the hieroglyphics have been deciphered. But I cannot believe that, because if I write a letter right now on the sidewalk in cement, and you see that letter 7,000 years later, how can you tell me what I meant when I wrote that letter? You can't. So now you can come up with your own theory and your own way that you want somebody to believe that all of this thing happened, but can you really tell me what I was thinking? You can't. And so when you look at what you're doing, you really are bringing history back from the minds of people who were not looking at doing history at all. And like I said, you missed out on a little bit. I'm telling you, because me going through Black history and me reading, the history of time, me understanding, like you said about the kids today, because the kids believe that our history started with slavery. And our history started with the beginning. And it's hard to say that to a kid that's for 18 years has been beaten in the head that they're inferior, they have no history, that they were slaves, and nobody sits down and say, well, what about the light bulb? Who created the element for the light bulb? Okay, a Black man did. I didn't know that. Well, who created the stop sign? Oh, I didn't know that. Who created this? Who created that? I didn't know. And we can go on a list and list. The cotton gin. Who created the cotton gin? We can go on list and list where Black people created stuff. And one of the things that irks me is when other folk come to America and say, if Black people built America, why haven't they built another America? And I always say, first of all, America is not finished, and Black people are still free, free, what? Free slavery, still building America with the prisoner pipeline. They still building America. But the deal is this. When they was building America, they built it for who? They didn't build it for themselves.
I had a chance to. I had a chance to speak with Congressman Price. Obama has a program called the Wildlife Program. He put it in office and funneled it through the states. And so it's a program that actually takes leaders from Central America and from the Caribbean and brings them to selected cities in the United States. And so Raleigh, North Carolina was selected as one of the 8 cities that these Wildlife Fellows were brought to. And I had a chance to work with this young man, Jeffsky Palencia. He reminded me of Eddie Murphy in Coming to America. He was such the Haitian prince, and he'd been educated. He was from Haiti, but he'd actually gone to France, and he'd gone several places globally. And I was actually touring him around the city. I was showing him. I took him to Shaw University. I took him over to St. Aug here in Raleigh, and then I took him to the 3 jails in Southeast Raleigh, and told him, it's a problem when the higher institutions, when the jails outnumber the higher institutions inside of a community. That's systematic. And so then when you put in, and when your engagement with the Black community is policing, and you have a certain number of bodies, you got to get into this new jail, this new $1 million jail. What happens is an inequality in the community when it comes to policing. And so he was unaware of the things that we were facing as a community, because a lot of people think that African Americans are laying on their laurels. And it's just like you said before, it was urban removal, those type of tactics, and then 2468, they didn't want to integrate. And during this time of America, unrest in the 60s, where Black people were moving to be able to have a voice, and the consequence of breaking interstate travel laws, and the consequence of showing up with trespass laws began to increase the jails. And someone said, well, you know what? This is a great way. This is a great way to do this. Let's just warehouse Black people. Let's just build more jails. And so since that time of the 60s, we've seen, and we can't forget about the war on drugs. And so the war of drugs, we've seen this incredible increase directly from the policy of schools to be able to criminalize behavior of our children inside those schools. While we're teaching them that they're inferior, we're looking at a massive disablement of the African American community, especially with the fact that there are no businesses and we cannot employ our youth. And so that is why the Black Business Expo and the Black Business Olympics is so important, is because you are giving us an opportunity as filmmakers, as marketing. I call myself a marketing genius in working with.
But I gotta ask you a question. I know people will say normally the host just let the guest just talk. That's not how we roll in the Black community. We got a different flavor. I gotta ask you this. It's been on my mind ever since I've been sitting here, because I'm part of the audience and I'm part of the host at the very same time. How do people get in contact with you if they want you to do documentaries from your lens? Because we see all the great film producers. We see all the great documentaries and films, but the question always is, what is the guts? Where is it coming from? And I make one classic example, and we have time for you to give that information. And I just want everybody to get your pencil and the paper out so that you can get it. Look at Black Panther. Okay, everybody lauded Black Panther, said it was the greatest movie of all time. It broke all the records. It made all that money, but the people that was in it didn't make no money. And as soon as the star died, the movie industry decided to kill him in the movie. Now, this is the problem. When Batman does another Batman, we get another star to do Batman. When Spider-Man does another Spider-Man, we get another Spider-Man to do another Spider-Man. When Superman do another Superman, we get another Superman. Okay, why is it psychologically when a Black man die in person, he dies in fiction? What is that psychological piece that has to go on where Black people can't continue to be great of the greatness that they are, even though, and I'm glad Donnie is not here, because me and Donnie be talking about it. He said, Eric, you done spoiled the movie for me. Even though Black Panther, when you sit back now, audience, don't get mad with me, because I didn't do the movie. Let's be clear. Eric Kelly didn't do the movie. I'm just giving you my opinion. Black Panther was about two black men. Think about it. Black on black crime fighting each other while a white man got into a ship that he's, remember?
And they called him colonizer. Didn't they call him colonizer?
Yeah, but check it out. He got into a ship that he's never flown before, ever. He's so smart. I can get in any kind of ship. He flew the ship and shot the other planes out of the air to keep them from getting the vibranium to people for liberation. That's what that movie was about. Now, y'all black people say, no, Dr. Kelly, you spoiling it for me. You spoiled it. I'm not. I'm telling you what the narrative was. With that being said, give everybody the information so that they can contact you and have you to work on their documentaries and movies.
I can be reached at www.toomuchtinc.com.
Say it again, slowly.
www.toomuchtinc.com. Too Much TV Incorporated.com. And I just want to answer one question. It goes back to the book of Donald Bogle wrote. And he wrote a book about primetime blues. And it also goes back to a book that Dr. Camille Cosby wrote, Dr. Bill Cosby's wife. And she wrote a book about the imageable influences and how it affects you in the psychology. And then we have to go back and we have to look at the role that media played after the death of all the civil rights movements, and how media was a way to be able to soothe the Black community and get them back under control by empowering them through Blaxploitation movies. And so when you look at all three factors, you look at the role of soothing the African-American community in the 70s. You look at Donald Bogle's book, Primetime Blues, that tells you, it lines up television as against the backdrop of the reality of what's going on. And then when you look at Dr. Camille Cosby's book about the imageable influence and how learning, self-perception is tied to learning, and how television plays a part in self-perception, you will see the answers to the question that you just posed about Black Panther, because television is used as a way to psychographically continue your plantation thinking. And
you know what? A lot of people don't know what you just said. A lot of people sitting here, they're saying, what did she just say? A lot of people are saying that, but I'm going to tell you what she just said. There is something called a narrative that's put on Black people so that Black people can feel a particular way, so they can respond a particular way to what's going on in the world without being liberated.
And it's internalized oppression. So it's everything that was brought to us on that plantation for those, because all of us who are African-American here didn't come off a boat. Some of us were already here. But
already.
Here. And so
sitting around chilling, you know, hey, what's going on? What y'all doing here? What y'all talking about?
Right.
What we got to do? We got
with the wealth. Don't forget about the wealth that also is there. And so everybody didn't come on that slave ship, but for the ones that did and set in a oppressed place and are sitting in that space, they want you there for as long as possible. And the media is a way to keep you in that space as long as possible, so that there is no great awakening.
Now I'm going to get canceled. I'm just going to tell you what I'm getting ready to say. They're going to cancel my show for good, but I'm going to say it anyway. We're
here as guests. So we just, we're here as guests.
Look, they can guess not have us the next time. So I said this to my mother the other day. And, I was sitting there and I was thinking, first I asked my mama, I said, Mama, how did y'all deal with the black water fountain and the white water fountain and going in the black door and the white door? I said, how could y'all have done that? I said, I don't get it. And my mother looked me straight in the eye and she said, that's just the way it was. And when she said that, it just dawned on me that Jim Crow and all these things were a situation that was put in place and you couldn't do nothing about it. Okay, now let me tell you what I gotta say after I said that to her. I said, and mama, I said, you know what I've been thinking? I said, a lot of people don't deal with the slave trade the right way. I think the story and the narrative of the slave trade is incorrect. I say because if you sit back and think about it, the slaves that were brought over here were not grown people. Because grown people would have did like what they did in Haiti. They would have rebelled and just said, we're not doing it. Okay. But the slaves that were being taken from Africa were kids. They was 10, 11, and 12. Okay, now work with me on this. It took about a year and a half to come from Africa all the way to North America.
Trauma.
Okay, so
Trauma.
I'm let's just imagine I'm 10 years old. Okay, 10 years. I'm a 10-year-old child. Brain
Fully
don't know
functioning.
nothing. 10
Right.
years old. First, you got to take me to the West Indies for 4 to 6 years. Okay, West Indies for 4 to 6 years. How old am I now? I'm 15 years old, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, then you're going to bring me back to America. I am 16 or maybe I'm 18 years old. And from that moment on, remember, you took me to the West Indies to train me to be subservient to you because you own me like an animal. Now, in my mind, now I can say animal, you own me like an animal. But remember what kind of society we had then. I am complicit as the person who's being owned because what do I know? I don't know nothing. Now, you from the West Indies, you bring me to America. I am sold, and people want to say, well, this one was sold from that one. It won't no marriage. It won't no sister and brother kind of situation. It was tribes of kids. And those tribes of kids were just spread out. And it took, think about it, 329, 329 years for me to get from the conscious mind that I was in to the conscious mind of rebellion. That's deep. Because, as my mama said, that's just the way it was. Why did those kids die on those slave ships? Because they didn't know anything about what death was. Why was the ships able to still come with dead kids on them? Because the kids didn't know that they was what? Dead. This is the piece nobody wants to talk about because at the end of the day, we want to paint the narrative that those chiefs were selling off grown people and these grown people were becoming slaves and automatically you knew what a slave mentality was and you knew how to be a slave. No, you had to go through the training to become a slave so that when you got to America, you could build this country. We got 3 minutes to go. Let's talk about the last 3 minutes. I wanted to get that out so I can be counseled, because when you sit back and think about it and you say, wait a minute. So that there were kids being stolen from Africa and these kids built this country. Why wouldn't they rebel? Because they didn't know what rebellion was. But anyway, that's my little story for the day. And Donnie Glover, you can't say nothing. I know you like to talk. And I want to thank Donnie Glover for giving us this opportunity. But looking at your company and your business, what are the kinds of things that you would like to say to the audience before you get out of here?
Well, I just want to say thank you for working with us on our next project. Being able to have the Black Business Expo, the members of the Black Business Expo paired with students at HBCU so that they can have the marketable job skills that they need to be able to sustain themselves in a city that's going to be one of the largest technical, robust places in America. That's the energy that is coming to this area. We've got a number of people here concentrating, and to have mass communication students give a value add to African American businesses, I think is a win for the students as well as a win for the businesses, so that we can market and be able to let businesses know how to use social media and leverage it and digital screens. So social media and digital screens in a way to grow their business before we're priced out. And so I think that it's a great opportunity to work with the members of your organization, to have students come from our two HBCUs. Maybe we can get Central on as well, to be able to tell the story of what's going on here and to be able to bring a value add to small businesses. I want to thank you for that. That's what I would like to get off my chest. Thank you for being the visionary that you are for Black businesses, Dr. Kelly.
Well, we are streaming live on Hulu, Amazon Prime. We're streaming on YouTube. We're streaming on Facebook. We're streaming on LinkedIn. We're streaming all over. So for those out there who just getting to the Donnie Glover Show, this is the Donnie Glover Show. It's the Black Business Network Takeover Show today. I'm Dr. Eric Kelly III. Want to thank you for tuning in. Want to thank my guest, Tamisha Thomas, for Too Much TV. And you can find her at www.toomuchTVinc.com. You can go there. You can click on the contact button. She can come to wherever you are and tell your story, do a documentary for you. And again, for those who want to know about the Black Business Expo, the Black Business Expo, the Black Business Olympics, that is one of the largest business showcases in the history of Black business in the world. Yes, the world. You can go to YouTube right now, click in Black Business Olympics and see what we've been doing. We look like what we look like. And again, want to thank you, Tamisha Thomas, for being on. We're 1 minute over. I don't know if my 1 minute's going to kill me, but I want to make sure that I say to you, thank you so very much for coming on. And for those who don't know, I called her this morning to talk with her, and she said, sure, I'll come on and talk about my company. I'll talk about our relationship, but more important, I will come and stand up and talk about Black folk, Black empowerment, and of course, Black change. Yes, you're a revolutionary. You might not know you don't need the tam on. You don't need the mask on. You don't need to have the red, black, and green shirt and dress and flowers on. But you're a revolutionary, and we want to say to you, thank you for the work that you do. Because without people like you, the narrative will always be the same. We must change the narrative. And with that being said, is there anything that you like to say before we get out of here?
Thank you for having me, Dr. Kelly.
Thank you again. And for, as I say, you can reach Tamisha Thomas on Too Much TV. Go online now to www.toomuchTVinc.com. And there you can get your documentary done, you can get your movie done, and more importantly, you can share your narrative with the world. You got Eric Kelly III from the south side of the beautiful bull city of Durham, North Carolina, the very first Black Wall Street. Yes, indeed. We started the very first one. Go to the books, look us up. You'll find it out. Also want to thank the Metaverse Goddess for allowing us to show her summit coming up on the 14th and 15th. Go online, look it up, And again, as I say, genius is common. And I'll see all of you on the other side. Thank you again. And of course, our website is www.blackbusinessexpousa. If you want to email us, you can email us at erickelly45@gmail.com, or you can call. I know everybody don't give the numbers out. 919-308-9090 USA. Thank you so very much. You got Dr. Kelly saying to everybody, thank you. And as Donnie Glover would say, hello, world. Hello, world. Hello, world. Thank you. Until the next time.
Thank you.